It's the Eastside Fantasy Football Podcast. Today is Tuesday, September 20th. Joe, let me go on a minute to start this, okay?
Go ahead.
Yesterday, I went to the Ravens game. You know, my beloved Ravens. I don't know if anyone saw the score. Not what you're looking for. I had a great day. I went down to the stadium. I was a little late because I was working the pregame show. I was watching it first half, dynamite. Lamar is kicking ass. He's going to get an MVP chance. Then the second half starts. And when I tell you, I watched the worst defensive performance in NFL history. I mean, here's the thing. When you see big comebacks happen, especially when you're up 21 in the fourth quarter, it's more, oh, they turned it over. Oh, they're going 3 and out. No, they moved the ball a little bit. They should have gotten some first downs, but they didn't turn it over. They didn't even allow a sack. It was unbelievable. And to top it all off, guess who I'm playing against in the league? Soup, who's got the sun god, Amon-Ra, give him 40 points, and I get to watch live Tyreek shove it up my ass. So there it is. There's 80 points between his two wide receivers. The Ravens lose. It was a good day. That's really all I got for my Sunday.
You deserve that. Thank you. My name's Joey Brunner. I'm a co-host here on this podcast. We had to let Taitano get that out. This wasn't a great week for me fantasy-wise either. I know we'll get into it some more here. And also just to kick you while you're down, when we get into this injury report here, you're not going to like what you hear, even though you already know what we're going to get into.
Oh, I know. I am aware I drafted the infirmary. All right. And even when my guys do decide to play, they play one quarter and it's like, oh, I fell down a little awkward. Take me out. Let me fuck Nick over a little more and not play the rest of the game. On top of the fact that I got guys playing on snap counts. Can I read you something real quick?
Please
DeAndre
do.
Swift, who was one of my more productive players yesterday, finished with, I think, about 16 points. Thank God he's the most productive player with his opportunities. He played 31 snaps, half the snaps, okay? 5 carries. He got 56 yards. Man was averaging over 10 a carry. And then he had 2 catches for 31 yards and a touchdown. If he doesn't have the most productive 7 opportunities in the world, I might not even score 100 points this week.
Well, on the bright side, you were on the Lions who kicked my Washington Commanders' ass. So there's one positive for you there. And without further ado, let's get into the news and notes here. Sony, I know we got a lot going on with your team. It's not ideal. I do feel for you because it's not like these are bad players just putting up bad days. You have a lot of injuries on your team, but we'll get into it. Starting with your board bet that you made that should have been spectacular. Jalen Waddle was going off in the first half. You said Jalen Waddle would outperform Tyreek Hill in your fantasy output against your Ravens in week 2. Jalen Waddle was going off in the first half, and then a 20-some point fourth quarter, I believe, for the Dolphins, led mainly by Tyreek Hill. Put Tyreek. They both scored in the 40s in our league because we have big play bonuses and stuff. So Jalen Waddle was a great call. We both agree that Jalen Waddle was going to have a great week, but Tyreek Hill ended up outperforming Jalen Waddle just to continue to kick you. I'm sorry. I know that a lot of this that we're about to get into is going to be negative for you. I love you, and I'm sorry.
Wait till we get into the game recaps because I actually picked a lot of games right.
Nice. That's good.
But yeah, I mean, I don't really. It's a board bet I lost, but did I? I mean,
yeah, it's not the end of the world. It's just the cherry on top of what we've been going over. Yeah. I know, exactly. But also Trey Lance. So I'm sure everybody saw Trey Lance get carted off. Which, I mean, we can't see the future, but with Jimmy Garoppolo staying on the team there, this just kind of made sense. And I'm sorry to say this for Trey Lance's sake. This just kind of made sense that something like this was going to happen, considering they couldn't get rid of Jimmy G. And morale seemed to be boosted. And I know it's on a negative. So like I said, no disrespect to Trey Lance here, but morale seemed to be boosted in San Francisco when Jimmy G was in the game. They looked good. They kicked the Seattle Seahawks team's ass. And Trey Lance is out for the season, though, so the hype around Trey Lance before this year, sadly, that's come to an end, and we will not really know what could have been this season.
Yeah, real quick. So he had surgery on Monday, done for the year, like you said. With Lance gone now, and you're back to Jimmy G, do you have more confidence? Maybe not in Debo, he was always going to get the ball, but someone like Ayuk, do you have more confidence in him with Garoppolo being under center now?
Not even Ayuk. I mean, I have slight confidence in Ayuk because he showed that he had some fantasy success last year and on and off can be like a flex play. But when he is back from I believe it's a groin injury with George Kittle, that's who I believe in so much more with Jimmy G as the quarterback now. So I think it's Bryce. Does Bryce have George Kittle? I think Bryce has George Kittle.
Someone get on that.
I think that when he does come back in, Jimmy G will be the reason that George Kittle is so much better, because I was not in love with him when Trey Lance was going to be the quarterback.
James Conner, left third quarter, ankle, did not return. We'll get into it. I think Darrell Williams scored for Arizona.
Yeah. Darrell Williams and Eno Benjamin kind of went back and forth, which is kind of to be expected when something like this happens in the middle of a game. I talked about seeing the future earlier. I told Derek I was watching football with Derek, actually, on Sunday, and I told him that I could see the future because I did add Eno Benjamin right before the game started, the 1 o'clock games, and then all of a sudden James Conner did hurt his ankle, so that was really weird. I don't know if Eno Benjamin's going to be this getting all the workload like James Conner would be kind of guy. If James Conner cannot play throughout like the following weeks, obviously we don't have the updates yet, but that is something to monitor between Eno Benjamin and Darrell Williams, excuse me.
Jerry Jeudy. I don't want to say much about this. I played him yesterday. I needed him. What did he play? A quarter, maybe a drive?
Yeah, he left in the first quarter.
Perfect. I didn't see much of it. He left with the shoulder. I do believe the x-rays are negative. I saw that come through in the Fantasy Life app. So I think that you just have to wait to see what happens for Jeudy, what his timetable is. Not much more on that. And then Hunter Renfrow, you didn't see that play. He's concussed. Let me just run down. These next three players are actually on my team.
Yeah.
Oh, all in my starting lineup as well. Hunter Renfrow, who I'm starting to really lose faith in. He actually put together like a very decent, nothing special performance just from the overtime with like the amount of catches. His average depth of target has got to be way down this year. I mean, he does not get the ball past like 5 yards. He leaves with a concussion. He pretty much got knocked out, fumbled. Arizona wins on that last play. And then Dalton Schultz hurts his knee late in the game, did not return. And by the way, if you thought, oh, Dalton Schultz, he had a couple catches, don't worry, he fumbled, so it leaves me with 1 point before he left the game. So those are the do's and notes. Thank God those last three guys play for me. We had a very minor trade.
Everything went your way this week. Let's just say that. Everything went your way.
We got a minor trade to break down. Hit the sound.
I'm going to make him an offer he can't refuse.
All right, so Andrew Atkins, he gets Dallas Goedert, and Sam Smith acquires Devonta Smith. Very minor trade here. It's actually between two teammates, two Philadelphia Eagles. So I guess one's betting on the other to be a little more involved in the pass game.
I know Sam Smith was definitely itching to get rid of Dallas Goedert when he acquired Kyle Pitts from Spano. We talked about that in the last episode. Sam was kind of shopping around Dallas Goedert, see what he could get. Devonta Smith, I mean, we'll see with the Monday night game what kind of happens here, and see if Devonta Smith can improve on his week 1 output, which was a 0.0 on 4 targets. So I don't really know if this is really worth trading. If I was in Sam Smith's shoes, I would have kept Dallas Goedert because he really didn't need a Devonta Smith type. He has a lot of wide receiver 2s that could have some upside on his team already. And Atkins, I think Atkins is kind of rounding out a little roster here. We talked about a trade with him last week as well. He got DJ Moore added to his wide receiving core already with Jamar Chase and Deebo Samuel, I believe. And now he has Dallas Goedert as his tight end, who I think he was running like Hunter Henry week 1. So, yeah. So it's not a huge trade. We already, not really too much to get into there.
Yeah, I just had to break it down for a second.
Yeah, for sure.
Before we get into the relevant TVDs of the week, let me bring on our special guest today. You kind of spoiled it earlier, Joe. I don't even know if you realized, but you said Derek.
I know I did. Well, I was with him, so I thought of it, and then it all happened.
Many of you may know him as Dainty Ducks, but I know him as Lur's brother. That's right, Lur from Lur's Picks. It's Derek Taitano. Derek, welcome to the show.
Woo! Well, as always, it's an honor being known as Tyler's brother. It's a swell guy. Also, I love to see what you guys have been doing lately. Used to be my former bus buddy. Look at that. And then my extra mate, Mr. Joey Briner.
Yes,
How are
sir.
we doing?
Happy to have
nice
you
seeing
on,
you guys.
brother.
Nice talking to you guys.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
Hey, Derek, me and you are headed for the cellar after week 2.
Oh,
So don't worry.
dumpster fires.
Yeah. All right. It's like we're
Yeah,
back
you
on the
guys
bus.
have been running into some brick walls in your matchups, as well as having players that are made of glass and
stinking
testones.
it up. Yeah.
We'll get Derek more involved for sure when we get into a little Sunday recap, fantasy matchup recap, all that sort of good stuff. But
yeah, I wanted to pull Derek on just for his reactions for the irrelevant TDs of the week.
Who in the blue hell are you?
All right, in Miami, or not in Miami, but for Miami in Baltimore, a bunch of people scored. Don't get me wrong. Like if you had Jalen Waddle, if you had Tyreek Hill, if you had even
Rashad Bateman,
the blocker, Mike Gesicki, they scored touchdowns. But there was one guy who scored a touchdown, owned in 0.0% of leagues. It's the rookie, or I don't know if he's a rookie actually, but it's the wide receiver for Miami, River Craycraft.
everybody knows him.
Exactly. In Tampa Bay. Now, this one, maybe expected a little more with all the injuries. Mike Evans gets ejected, but Rashad Perryman, I think that game was 3-3 going into the fourth quarter. Yeah.
Yeah, that was another dumpster fire of a game.
Rashad Perryman, I think he was a wide receiver 1 for a week, way back in the day. He's actually a former Ravens draft pick, a bust. He scores, owned in 0.2% of leagues. Next on the list, let's go to New York. The Giants, Daniel Bellinger, 0.2% of leagues. Tight end. You have any idea who that is?
Nope.
I haven't even heard of half of these guys, dude. What's going on here? Let's get to some football players.
I know people have heard of this guy, but you just don't take a chance on him. 0.2% of leagues in Atlanta. Olamide Zacchaeus. Yep, that's the guy. I remember he was I think somewhat usable back in the Julio Jones days when Julio Jones was leaving every third second with a hamstring. Let's go San Francisco. Ross Dwelly. 0.0% of leagues. I've heard of him. I've never heard of him catching a touchdown until
that was just a broken play. That was a weird one.
I can't wait to get to this matchup game because Joe was hot about Russell Wilson and the Broncos yesterday. Russell Wilson did throw one touchdown pass, and it wasn't to anyone you expected. Eric Saubert, the tight end, owned in 0.0% of leagues in Denver. Dallas, it wasn't CeeDee. It wasn't Zeke. I know Tony Pollard found the end zone, but Noah Brown did as well. 0.8% of leagues. Then we have Darrell Williams, like I said, 3.6% of leagues. Now, there was an injury that led to this, but I think, if anything, Benjamin was probably owned more than Darrell Williams in a lot of leagues as the backup.
Yeah, I would assume so too.
And then finally in Arizona, he might be making big time moves because he's put together 2 impressive weeks. 2.8%. I expect to go up. Greg Dortch.
Yeah, I mean, he was on some waiver wires throughout the fantasy community, I'm sure, after that week 1 performance. You didn't see the crazy target share like you did in week 1, but for him to find the end zone is still kind of like round out his week 2. I mean, he's put up 2 double-digit fantasy point weeks. So, I mean, you definitely have to look into that considering there's still 4 more weeks until DeAndre Hopkins is going to come back.
Well, the Dortch man did it. And that was the irrelevant TDs of the week.
Beautiful. Everybody's super happy about those touchdowns.
Yeah, everyone, the combined 8% of people who owned all those players.
That's just gross. And let's get into the soups of the week. On a better note, we're going to talk about some guys we love here. These are guys that most of these guys did score touchdowns. They did help your fantasy team. These are big name guys for the most part. We're going to get into the soups of the week.
You like that? You like that?
So starting off here, these first guys all scored at least 30 points in PPR format. Some of these guys, a couple of them we mentioned, already actually had over 40 in our home league because of our bonuses that we do. We've mentioned it before, our opinions on those. If they're your guys and they get it, you love the bonus. If you're playing against them, you hate the bonus. But going through, the first few guys are all just the absolute soups of the week. Tyreek Hill.
Some of these people are owned by Soup.
Yes, that's true. Tyreek Hill, the first name on the list, is owned by Soup. So it's perfect. Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, Amon-Ra St. Brown. I mean, all three of them just went off. Amon-Ra St. Brown, pat myself on the back, start of the week by yours truly. Let's go. Cooper Kupp, my little Cooper Kupp, I love you. Nick Chubb, Aaron Jones, and Garrett Wilson. All of these guys had over 30 points in PPR format. I see Derek here on our Zoom. He's shaking his head because he did indeed drop Garrett Wilson before this week. He needed a defender. He dropped him. And Yeah, that's not what you love to see. Getting into 20 plus on the week, we had some surprising names actually, and some big names here with Christian Kirk, who looked great in the Jacksonville offense this week.
He's a mainstay.
Yeah, stop me anytime if you have any comments. By the way, I'm going to run through them. Mark Andrews finally had a good week. I know week 1 he had like 10 fantasy points, I believe. So definitely wasn't the end of the world, but to see him go off week 2 was great in that insane Baltimore Miami matchup. Amari Cooper, Jacoby Brissett was finding Amari Cooper. I don't know if it's sustainable, but I know he's on Sam Smith's bench, and I believe he put up like 26 fantasy points in our league or something like that. So that was good to see. I mean, just from Cleveland Browns, I'm sure we have a lot of Browns fans, listeners out there that are listening right now that are happy that Amari Cooper went off. Drake London is not getting the hype he deserves, I think.
I started him in my big money league.
That's good. I mean,
he's a mainstay in that. I mean,
he had like 13.
Would you rather have right now? Would you rather have Kyle Pitts or Drake London?
Drake London. It's not even close.
Yeah.
Kyle Pitts has like 3 catches in 2 games. Drake London has like 13.
And he found the end zone this week.
Yeah, and he found the end zone. I mean, him and Marcus Mariota have a connection, and it looks good. Following Drake London, guy that I'm sure everyone started.
I did.
Aguilar. No,
Aguilar. I'm skipping over
Nelson Aguilar. The wide receiver 1, I guess, for New England.
Yeah, great.
Who
cares?
Yeah, it's pretty gross. But he mossed somebody in the like on the 2-yard line, went over top of him. I don't know who the defender was, went over top of him, lost him for a touchdown, had like 110 yards and a touchdown. And now
my start of the week.
I started
him in a league.
Yes.
Curtis Samuel, let's go.
This is
for
Derek's
the
guy
Manders,
too.
You guys should be pumped.
I am pumped, except that we got our ass kicked.
This is my only team participant. God.
Yeah, Derek was talking about adding Curtis Samuel after the week 1, and he said he was going to plug him right in, and he did, and he had a great fantasy performance. Yeah, and that was one of Testoni's start of the weeks. I know. The other start of the week that I had was Antonio Gibson, who did get in the end zone, but didn't have a whole lot. What was your other start of the week? Do you remember, Testoni?
No, I have no idea. I can go back and look real quick.
That's all right. It's not a big deal. If they weren't in a soup of the week, then it wasn't good enough for our start of the weeks. We expect perfection. And so, it's okay. It's not a big deal. We'll get into your guy here next, Rashad Bateman. He had another bomb touchdown from Lamar Jackson in that first half, I believe, where everything was looking on the up and up for Baltimore. Everybody was going crazy, I'm sure, until the world collapsed.
It was. Thanks, Joe. Really rub it in.
Yeah, I know. We lost to the Lions, dude. Don't worry.
Yeah, who called that?
Yeah, you did. And lastly on this list here, we have Noah Brown. You mentioned him, Cooper Rush, Noah Brown. They had a connection. I believe he had like 5 or 6 catches on like 9 targets and a touchdown. In third down and even fourth down looks, Cooper Rush was looking Noah Brown's way, and they had a good connection. So that rounds out the Stoops of the week. So shout out to all those guys for the fantasy success that probably led to a lot of wins in your leagues. We're also going to pop in a couple quarterbacks here. We don't like to put quarterbacks in the Soups of the week, even though we really should have with these first 2 guys, Lamar and Tua. Obviously, you saw Tyreek and Waddle at the top, Mark Andrews up there as well. I mean, Lamar broke a big run. He ended up being QB1 on the week. Tua had 6 touchdowns and almost 500 yards. I mean, just absurd. And
I watched it live.
Yeah, I know you did. I'm sorry. And I believe 4 touchdowns came in the fourth quarter. So
yeah, they did.
Insane.
So they really did.
Yep. We're gonna keep talking
about
it.
I was on site. If you wanted a reporter.
Wait, were you there, Tessoni?
I was there.
Okay. And Carson Wentz coming in number 3. Carson Wentz
back-to-back
top
weeks.
5 quarterback in fantasy. Everybody was talking about it preseason. It's crazy. Joe Flacco. Is Joe Flacco elite? ?
Yeah, he is. I have a question real quick. He wasn't on the breakouts. I didn't see his final score, but Dotson found the end zone again this
week, I don't think he had that many catches other than finding the end zone. I could find his actual stat line, but I know that he didn't have too much because the offense wasn't doing anything in the first half. It was 22-0 after the first half. So John Dotson, I mean, he had 459 and a touchdown, which nothing to shake your head about. I mean, that's a pretty great line, especially for a rookie. You like to see that, but doesn't make the Soups of the week. And coming in number 5, Jared Goff. I mean, this is just a stellar top 5 quarterback list here.
Yeah, it is. This is pretty much, if you were drawing up a list of the top 5 quarterbacks in the league, you would start with these 5.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, Jared Goff rounding out the top 5. I mean, you're just excited to have a top 5 with Carson Wentz, Joe Flacco, and Jared Goff in it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you love to see that. I mean, like I said, 22-0 for the Lions at halftime. I mean, it was just disgusting. And Tyler's of the week.
You suck, you jackass.
We're going to start off with Rashad Penny here. Got some single digits, guys.
That's my guy.
Rashad Penny.
I didn't play him. I didn't play him, but he is my guy. Actually, I did play him in another league. So it was a really good week.
The Seahawks came back to earth with this game for sure. Darnell Mooney, stinky butt Mooney. No more money Mooney because he hasn't even scored.
Just give up. He sucks.
He hasn't even scored 2 fantasy points. It's been 2 weeks and he doesn't even have 2 fantasy points.
Biting my tongue because all I want to say is money Mooney.
Yeah,
man, there once was a time.
There once was a time. And I have him in one of my other leagues and I didn't start him this week. I did start the next guy that's also on this Tyler's of the week list, Cordero Patterson. Derek, that's your guy right there.
I'm not worried about him though.
Yeah, he recently traded from me to you. He's on this list here. Jerry Jeudy, not really fair with the shoulder injury, but I'm sorry, Testoni, he is on this list. Chase Edmonds, Kyle Pitts recently traded to Sam Smith from Spano.
Just don't throw him the ball.
I know. It's crazy. I mean, he is such a great athlete, and he does not get involved in this offense. It's clear. It's like obvious that there is a passing game in Atlanta. Like they fought hard in their last 2 games. And it's not like Cordero Patterson was getting 22 carries like he did week 1. So how Kyle Pitts only had 1 catch, I believe, it doesn't add up. It really doesn't. But Sam Smith is looking good to beat me still. We'll get into that later. DK Metcalf is on this list. Ezekiel Elliott, I know he's on Derek's team. He was my sit of the week. He is on this list. Jonathan Taylor, gross.
Dude,
Jonathan Taylor against the Jaguars. I'm sure he was probably number 1 ranked on all fantasy websites for this week 2, like RB rankings.
I legitimately think there are like a couple coaches that could get fired like soon. I think Frank Reich should have been fired last year after they blew it. Like, give me a reason. Like, I understand they blamed it all on Wentz, and Wentz wasn't good.
Yep.
All they had to do was win and get in. And they shouldn't have even been in that spot. If they had won I think they lost the last 3 games. Frank Reich should have been fired. I think he might get fired this year if it keeps going this way. He could be fired today. Matt Rule, get him the fuck out of there. He needs to be canned.
Yeah.
You know by the way, do you know who's calling? I don't even know if you remember this guy. It'd be better if Jackson was here because he's a Giant. Do you remember Ben McAdoo, the old Giants head coach?
I do not.
He was a clown. He's the offensive coordinator. They got Matt Rule and Ben McAdoo drawing up plays down there in Carolina. And for some reason, they don't involve Christian McCaffrey.
That's quite the duo. I mean, Christian McCaffrey, he didn't make soups of the week, but I believe he finished with like 17 fantasy points without even finding the end zone. So that's kind of a Christian McCaffrey day without finding the end zone. But Jonathan Taylor, I mean, that just blew my mind that he did not run all over the Jacksonville Jaguars. Like,
they look bad. They didn't
Aaron Rodgers owns the Bears. The Jacksonville Jaguars own the Indianapolis Colts.
They own land in Indianapolis.
Yes, they do. TJ Hawkinson on this list, which is surprising considering how well the offense moved. Yeah, that's Testoni's tight end. Or no, that's Diego's. Not in this. You're right. That's Diego's tight end.
I almost say like it's a tight end, whatever. But I mean, when you see like the points that Amon-Ra puts up,
that's why it's surprising.
I think Josh Reynolds might have caught a touchdown pass.
He did.
So it's like they're just. I almost feel like it was just like there was not enough to go around for him this week.
Yeah,
I wouldn't be like overly concerned about that.
Yeah, no, not too much. Mike Evans next on this list. I mean, Tom Brady was pissed off this entire game. He's throwing tablets around. He's screaming. I didn't see any of this. He's screaming F words.
I didn't see this go to the game, Mike. But I think if you were going into it, you had to temper your expectations because, I mean, realistically, isn't like his numbers career against Lattimore not good?
Lattimore always straps him up, it seems like. And they actually got into a fight, and they both got ejected
from
the
ejected,
game.
So.
Forgot to mention that. So that's also a prime reason why Mike Evans makes this Tyler of the week list. Javonte Williams, single digits. Alan Lazard, who scored a touchdown against me. He's on Sam Smith's team. That was my matchup. Scored a touchdown against me and only finished with 9 fantasy points. He only had 2 catches. You cannot be too excited with Alan Lazard after that. Leonard Fournette, just the Bucs as a whole did not have a good day. Brandon Cooks recently traded to me from Derek. He had 10 targets. I'm really not worried about this. Davis Mills they just missed a few times. He should have had a touchdown in the fourth quarter.
He threw some ducks.
Yeah, Davis Mills just threw a few balls that were uncatchable and a few balls that they just didn't connect right on. Brandon Cook should have had a touchdown later in the game, like I said. Kareem Hunt, Josh Jacobs are out and out. Tyler's of the week. Just a couple single-digit running back performances.
It's back-to-back.
I did say that this was going to be a Nick Chubb week. I mean, I remember saying that when we talked about this against the Jets. I didn't expect the Jets to win, but I did expect a Nick Chubb, Jets, Jets. I did expect a Nick Chubb big week, and he performed with 3 touchdowns. We talked about him. He was a soup of the week. So, yeah. And then Josh Jacobs, I mean, the Raiders blew a big lead as well. That was a crazy game. Yeah, Josh Jacobs has not really performed as well as you would like. So we'll see what happens with that Josh Jacobs, DJ Moore trade that we talked about last show a little bit farther on. I know DJ Moore found the end zone, but we don't need to get into it too much. So bottom 5 quarterbacks, I kind of made this with guys who probably were started, may not have been started, but also there was a kind of a good week for quarterbacks. So it was kind of hard to find these names down at the bottom without just using guys that were for sure like benched. So, I mean, guys on here, these are all single digit guys. Actually, Russell Wilson in our league finished with 11 fantasy points, but he is on this list here.
Kudos to you, Joe.
Yeah, thank God. Russell Wilson, I hate you. We're not riding right now. Nobody's riding.
Nobody.
If you want us to ride, you need to score when you get in there. When you get into the red zone.
Let
the
anger fuel you.
I was getting so angry with Russell Wilson yesterday. They get inside the 5, and I was so excited. I thought I have the Cortland Sutton Russell Wilson stack. I thought that they scored, and then they reviewed it, and he didn't score. And then, of course, they kick a field goal because they don't know how to score when they get into the red zone. All right, I need to stop.
Brandon McManus, no shame in 3. There's one guy who's not let me down yet.
Matt Ryan here probably wasn't started in that many leagues, but did throw up a dud. They got shut out by the Jags. Tom Brady, is just god-awful, but it was all Carson Wentz's fault. Tom Brady coming in here next. That is Derek's quarterback. He was not happy with his performance as well. Everything was just kind of all for the Bucks. Justin Fields.
Real quick, Derek, what round did you leave with Brady?
Hey, first off, if we want to get into story time, we can talk about story time. It's for the memes, man. We had him every year we've had this league. It's his last year. He's only supposed to be on my team. I had to make sure. We had 2 guys.
I've had Kirk Cousins every year.
We had 2 guys. We had 2 guys auto drafting, and he was the top quarterback available in the 5th round. That's not my fault. Look at the quarterbacks were drafted. I have to take him so you can't get auto drafted.
Yeah, I've had Kirk Cousins every year, and I get him late. You know, Kirk Cousins go to my Ring of Honor at the end of the year. I'll just spoil that news. So
I already told Joe I will ride and die with Tom.
I know you will. I've always talked about it on here that you're just a Tom Brady guy. You're going to ride with the lows and you're going to ride with the highs. But next on here is Justin Fields. I mean, they looked great on the first drive of the game for those who watched that Sunday night game. Drove down, took the lead 7-3. There was some hype in Chicago. I know Big Cat was tweeting the Chicago Bears are frisky, Justin Fields QB1, stuff like that. And then I didn't see anything really after that about Chicago. Jameis Winston dealing with some injuries going into this game, but the Bucs defense shut him down pretty well. And Russell Wilson, I already talked about it. I mean, just pisses me off because that offense moves down the field and then they don't score touchdowns. It will get better. I know it will. But nobody's riding right now. Not a single soul is riding. And I'm mad that Russell Wilson is my quarterback. If he could have put up what is a relatively average week of a 20-point quarterback, you would say that's like not the craziest thing, right? That's like 250 and a couple touchdowns or something could probably get you around 20 points. Russell Wilson, just disgusting. I don't even want to talk about it anymore. Russell Wilson down at the bottom as well with, I believe, 11 fantasy points.
Let me relieve you, Joe. Let's go into the Sunday recap.
Let's do it.
All right. We might as well start here. Just get it over with. The Dolphins at the Ravens. The Ravens were up 21 points going into the fourth, 28 points in the fourth quarter from the Miami Dolphins. And, it was a great day for Tyreek, Jalen Waddle. I mean, I don't know if Tua might be owned. I don't think, unless it's a really deep league.
Yeah, he's on Andy's bench, actually. Andy started Carson Wentz.
Not a bad option.
No, 2 top 5 quarterbacks on the team.
Lamar was amazing. In our league, Lamar dropped a 50 burger for Jake Wills.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
He had that huge run.
Yeah, when he went on that run, it was over.
Yep.
So here's the thing, though. In the running game in Baltimore, until Dobbins until you see a week of Dobbins or Gus Edwards comes back, you can't start anyone. They can't run the football. They had 155 rushing yards as a team, and guess what? 119 came from Lamar. The Dolphins side, they didn't look good running the ball either. I mean, they had like a big run late from Edmonds, but you can't start anyone there. It was really the passing game for both. Bateman goes over 100. Andrews goes over 100. Even Isaiah likely got involved. Not a ton to talk about here. It was a good day for fantasy all around. Everyone.
The only thing I will mention in real quick is something negative for Chase Edmonds owners, including myself, is that Raheem Mostert did have 11 carries and Chase Edmonds only had 5 carries. So, I mean, I know that they were making a comeback, so they weren't really running the ball that much. I mean, that's only 16 total carries between the two, but you definitely don't like to see who you thought was going to be the number one guy get out touched by more than double.
Same amount of targets for both too.
Yeah.
So something to look at there. I believe I took the Ravens and it should have hit, but it did not.
I was on the Ravens as well.
I was also on the Ravens. That was crazy.
I guess give it to Lur. Good for him.
Anyone
else have anything else?
Took Miami?
Huh?
Was he the only one that took Miami?
Yeah, he did, and he got lucky.
Of course he would. Of course he would.
Is that no one else got anything else to add to this game?
No, it's all good.
We talked about it a lot. Anyways, let's go to Cleveland. The Jets pull it off late. Joe Flacco. January Joe made an appearance in September. The Jets win 31-30. Guess who took the Jets here? This guy. This is the one positive segment of the day for me. I was on with my picks. The Jets, absolutely electric. Joe Flacco, like we said, was a top 5 quarterback, 4 touchdowns, 307 yards. Jacoby Brissett did Jacoby Brissett things. He actually looked a little better this week. But it was a Nick Chubb show. 17 for 87, 3 touchdowns. And I believe if he went down instead of getting that last touchdown, which he's known to do, they win the game.
Yeah.
I think they would have iced the game, but, I mean, you can't blame him. It was a colossal you want to talk about the Ravens is all-time bad. We'll get this. There was actually a lot of blown leads this week.
Well, on the flip side, it was the Garrett Wilson show because he even got hurt in the middle of the game with a lower back injury, which looked bad. They showed it to him. He was like holding his lower back on the sidelines, and he didn't look like he was going to be getting up anytime soon. Next thing you know, he's catching his second touchdown of the day. He had 14 targets, 8 catches for 102, and 2 touchdowns. I mean, Joe Flacco was peppering targets to him. He had 26 completions. He had 26 completions, 8 catches for Garrett Wilson, but out of the 44 passing attempts that Joe Flacco did have, 14 of them went to Garrett Wilson. So he was just peppering Garrett Wilson all day. Breece Hall, Michael Carter split work on the ground. Both had 7 rushing attempts. So for Breece Hall owners, that is a good sign considering that the numbers are bumping up here.
I see Joe himself had 2 carries for 6 yards with a long of 7. So
yes,
that's
he did.
Good. That's
a long of 7 and finished with 6 yards.
Well, that means the other one was did not go very far.
You love to see that.
Good for Joe. Like you said earlier, Amari Cooper, 9 for 101, a touchdown.
Yeah.
10 targets. Big explosive game. I don't think you expect the Browns to be especially without Watson, to be in a lot of 30-point games. I think good week for Amari Cooper, but I don't think this is something you can expect. I think they're just going to run the football a lot and I'm
also not worried with Kareem Hunt having a dud week because Nick Chubb had 17 carries and found the end zone 3 times, but Kareem Hunt still had 13 carries. So and he had a 4.5 yard average per carry. So it's not like he had a bad day. He just usually does find the end zone and just didn't this time. Nick Chubb got all the end zone touches. So that's just how it went. It's going to go back and forth. Some days Kareem Hunt's going to have 3 and Nick Chubb's going to have 0.
On the Pittsburgh, I was on the Steelers, I think. And
I was on the Steelers as well.
I was taking the points. I was loving the points there.
Yeah. So Patriots win 17-14. Again, I was at a 1:00 game. So a lot of these 1:00 games, I see the stats, but I didn't watch the games. This looked like a fantasy day.
Yeah, it wasn't a lot of offense going on.
No.
And both of these teams got to figure it out.
Damian Harris did lead the way in the backfield, 15 for 71 and a touchdown. That's a good sign for him. Najee Harris was my sit of the week. I think he finished with I had it pulled up. I don't think he finished with a great day.
15 carries for 49 yards.
13.9 was his finish. So, I mean, not terrible, but I think, I said do not expect a big day from Najee Harris. So I'll take a semi-win on that one.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, he didn't have much work going on the week or on the ground, but he did have 5 for 40 in the air. So, yeah. I mean, he's the volume guy. Sorry, go ahead, Derek.
I was going to say, yeah, he literally gets their second most targets catching-wise.
So. Yeah, he did. And who led the way was Deontay Johnson with 10 by a significant amount, 657. It's not the best, but the guy who did find the end zone was a move, Pat Fryermuth.
He keeps getting it done. I'm not going to lie. I mean, week 1, he had like 12 targets. I mean, this week the targets did go down. He only had 7, but I mean, 4 for 22 and a touchdown on a tight end that you got in the double-digit rounds. You're not going to complain ever. So it's good to see.
For New England, receiving, like we said, Aguilar had a
Yeah.
great day, but Jacoby Myers continues to be the guy. 9 for 95 with 13 targets. Come on, that's good stuff right there.
Yeah.
Very productive.
You don't usually
Jake
see that
Wills-
from the passing game like that in
No.
New England. To have 2 guys like that had almost 100 yards each, but Jacoby Myers having 9 catches for 95. Like, you don't really see that from New England usually.
No. Anything else to add to this game?
No, I think all 3 of us were on the Steelers with the 3.5. So I guess
Yeah.
that's a win for all of us.
Let's go to Jacksonville. I was on the Colts.
Thank you.
And I don't know if I would have. So when we made our picks, I thought Michael Pittman was playing. I really did. Michael Pittman did not play in this game.
I was also under that assumption.
Now, I think it was a 7-point spread for the Colts. So I think it was.
I think it was like 4.5, dude. I think it was much lower than that. I'm not gonna lie.
I think it was like 6.5, 7.
Here, let's see if I still
No,
have
the line closed at 3. Dude, the line closed at 3.
Well, when we talked about it though, it was before Pittman was.
Oh yes, I'm not
So-
exactly certain what the line was.
It
at
was
that
it was
point.
-4 when we did Lur's picks.
Really?
There we
Okay.
go.
Well,
Yeah, I didn't think it was that high.
Yeah, so I probably still would have picked the Colts then. Don't worry about it.
Yeah,
I was probably
on
thinking of
the,
different.
I was on the Colts too.
I mean, I
picked
think
the Colts.
I just thought they give it to Taylor. You can go ahead, Derek, but I just thought Taylor they would let him dominate more, and that just was not the case.
Well, it was just unfortunate because I was telling Joey the entire game that the Colts never beat the Jaguars. For whatever reason, they just can't do it. They have no idea what's going on when they play the Jags.
Like I said, the Jags own the Indianapolis Colts. It's crazy.
Yeah. So Trevor Lawrence looked good. 25 of 30, 235 and 2 touchdowns. How about that for T-Law? That's a former 1-1 right there. James Robinson, 23 carries on the ground for 64
Yeah.
yards and a touchdown.
That is not good for Travis Etienne owners.
No.
Not good.
Evan Ingram, 7 for 46, 8 targets, and Christian Kirk, 6 for 78, 2 touchdowns.
Yeah, Kirk found the end zone twice, but Evan Ingram led the way with targets and receptions. So I mean, he's somebody to look at because I mean, tight ends always light. I mean, he's definitely somebody to look at if you don't have a tight end on your team. If he's going to get 7 for 46, I mean, you're not going to be in love with that line, but to get you double-digit points as a tight end off the waiver wire, you're going to be happy with it. So
there is nobody on the Indianapolis Colts that should even be rostered besides Jonathan Taylor, Naeem Hines,
yeah, I was going to add him too.
and Pity City.
Pittman.
Pity
I mean,
City.
And that's I mean, I don't even know how you could use anyone else.
But you would think, I mean, this is just from the outside looking in, you would still think that this game, they should have been able to score a touchdown, at least a
This is the
field goal with Jonathan Taylor. Just give it to him every down.
If I told you the first shutout of the year was going to come
every once in a while.
If I told you the first shutout of the year was going to come from the Jacksonville Jaguars pitching a shutout, it doesn't matter against who. If I told you Jacksonville was going to pitch the first shutout of the year, would anyone believe that?
I mean, I'd probably bet my entire life that wouldn't be the case.
Yeah. So brutal game for Indianapolis. Like I
Just
said,
gross.
they're 0-1.
But good for Jacksonville.
yeah.
Kind of like to see it.
how
Kind
about
of
the
like to see
Jags?
it.
Yeah,
Kind of like
very
to see
true.
it.
What's going on down there in Duval? I don't know.
Duval.
So, I want to see Trevor Lawrence do well. I think keep an eye on him. He seems to show, especially with Kirk and Ingram. I mean, there's weapons down there for him. And
Christian Kirk looked really good, actually. I like to
Yeah.
see that as well.
And they paid him a lot. They didn't pay him for nothing.
Yep.
So that was what happened down in Jacksonville. We're going to take a quick break, and then we'll be back with the rest of the Sunday matchups. We'll be right back.